Primeau fan.
Thank you for having me.
Your fans are like,
what an honor to be here, Pete. You're a legend. You're a rock star.
I'm a legend in my own mind, said my wife.
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
I'm Mr. Selling from the Heart. What's this guy, Larry Levine, going to teach me about selling from the heart?
You are one of the most generous and authentic people around. And I think that's why you and your show are so attractive to people.
Welcome to the Pete Primeau Show. It is episode 221, and we are with Ken Akers here today. Ken is the partner of Midwest Sleep, and they proudly manufacture Restonic and Spring Air. We're going to get to that in just a second. Let's pay the bills, Chris. If you haven't read my book, Sell a Million, what are you waiting for? Now is the time to get more door swings, and that's what this book does. It's a marketing and a business book. It will help you get more door swings. It's on Amazon right now for a stupid price of like $14.99. If you want a sales book, I got a sales book for you. Miles and miles of retail selling greatness. In my career, I put well over 2 million miles on my cars, I should say plural. And I've learned at the feet of a lot of great retailers and professionals in our business. It's all in here. Think of this as 3 years worth of sales meetings if you are a store manager. If you want to sell more mattresses, grab my book. I think it's under $20. I think it's $19.99, something like that. And without a further ado, let's get to our main sponsor, and that is Mattress Industry Network Group. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Greg. If you want to learn how to build, market, sell, and succeed, this is the place for you. It's a free Facebook group. Join us, and you will learn how to build, market, and succeed. Hit that QR code right there in the Mattress Industry Group. Everybody's in here, from store owners to sales pros that work the retail floor, to owners of manufacturers, to sales reps, VPs of sales. Everybody's in here. Join our group. You never feel alone again. I think it's over 2,400 strong. So join the group today and tell them I sent you. Chris, did I cover everything? I think that's a yes. Ken, welcome to the show.
Hey, Pete.
So Ken and I met in Vegas. And this guy's looking at me, this really distinguished looking gentleman's looking at me. He goes, "Are you Pete Primeau?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm Pete Primeau." I'm like, "Oh, well, man, what kind of trouble am I in?" He's like, "Hey, I'm Ken. And, I watch your show, and, we've kind of, had some similarities in our careers." And we talked for a few minutes, and pretty much, once in a blue moon might say hi to the other one and wish each other a happy birthday, but we really don't know each other. So this show promises to be fun. Ken's factory makes both Restonic and Spring Air. And you have been at this, over 35 years?
Yep, sure have.
And we both were at CERTA for a while, right?
Yep.
So we know a lot of the same people. And what we're talking about today is the winning edge in 2025. 2025 is different than any other year that we've had recently. We've had, we had COVID, we had the shutdown. We thought we were all going out of business. Then we had this great business as soon as we opened. Some of us had great business during COVID. My factory never shut down. We found a way to stay open. And then we had supply issues, and then we had inflation, and business has been good, business has been bad. It's kind of in between right now. How are you finding it out there right now, Ken?
That's a great question, Pete. First off, thank you for having me. Secondly, I'm going to have to buy your book that says "Sell More Mattresses," because clearly that's the business that we're in, even though you're a quasi competitor. So I just want to keep that, make sure that that's set. So I'm going to get your new book, "Sell More Mattresses," and see if it can help me, because I need all the help I can get.
And so, folks, let me unpack that for you. That's called Code I Want to Know Everything You Know for less than $20. And then I'm going to be able to more successfully compete against you. You are hilarious. This humility that you demonstrate, I see right through it, Ken. So don't try it again.
Very good. Very good.
How do you find this, my friend?
Well, 2025 has been a challenge, and really the end of 2024, it's been a challenge. We had the election year that we had to battle through, and which we know historically over every Olympic year we had that same challenge in the fourth quarter. But then when it ended, Pete, we found that there was a little bit of exuberance, a little bit of excitement that it's over with. And then the present administration came in and started doing what they're doing, and it's caused some consternation at retail.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's caused some concern, especially with importers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our components are imported.
Right. Well, I just mean, in our specific industry, Pete, we sell mattresses, and our biggest competitor is the internet. We've got a battle with free delivery to your front stoop and have a bed in a box. And in order for our retailers to stay relevant, they got to figure out how to compete against that, or pivot and not compete against it one way or the other.
That's a great point, Ken. And something we all have to decide who we're going to be at retail. As a retail store, you have to decide who you're going to be. Are you going to try to go head to head with that, or are you just going to go around it and go above it? That's a decision every retailer has to make. The most successful retailers I know right now are not giving very many SKUs to the promotional products. They are merchandised up higher than we've ever seen them, because that customer at the higher ends in the midpoint still seems to be in the market, and that lower end customer either is not in the market or they're just flat out going on the internet and buying them.
Yeah.
We're not hearing a lot about a lot of customers in stores asking for low end or promotional goods these days.
Right. The real tragedy is I work retail floors still today, and you probably do too. The number one reason people go to a store is they've had a good experience there. And the sad part is, or the tragic part is, if they don't buy that introductory first mattress, kids mattress, they don't get that positive experience from the retailer. And that's kind of saddening to me.
Yeah. And every sale that I've worked in the last few years, I've overheard this comment from customers. I already bought a cheap mattress. I don't want to see anything cheap. When you dig into it, that's that customer that bought on the internet. And I'm not going to use any names because I don't want to give anybody free publicity. But they bought on the internet. They had a less than good experience, and now they're ready to invest in getting a good night's sleep and waking up as happy and pain-free as possible.
Right. And truth be told, your factory, my factory, we make better beds than the $200 bed they can buy off the internet anyway, and roll it up and put it in a box and ship it to their door. That's the facts.
Yep. There's no doubt. And since you brought that up, we should probably talk about that. Years and years ago, like when we were just getting into the business, Ken, there were traffic producers, and those were Sealy, Serta, Simmons, when they were two separate companies, and Spring Air. And those were the ones that you advertised that gave you credibility as a retailer. And then you had these other brands that made a really good quality product that you could make more margin on, and your customer could get a great night's sleep on and be super happy with you. And you make a little bit more money than some of those brands that were being footballed around. And there was seemed like during the Sealy Wars, there was no end to the bottom, right? I remember I was in retail at the time, Ken. I sold a $5.99 queen, which is like selling a $14.99 queen today, and was kind of happy about it. And then I got the customer called and canceled a couple days later, and they had bought the same exact mattress for $4.49. Because Ernie Wooliger started the Sealy Wars. A lot of people don't even remember this. And I was in Cleveland, Ohio, my friend, like 20 miles north of Medina. Like several Sealy factories had like drawn an X on Ernie's territory and said, we're going to destroy this guy.
What year was that, Pete? What years were those?
That was in the very mid 80s. The mid 80s. And then, of course, the infamous lawsuit came down, and Ernie was right and the rest of the world was wrong. And there went territories.
Yeah. That's right.
But here, and this is a lesson. So, Ken, I might have shared this with you. I may not have, but on my show, I am very blessed to attract an awful lot of reps. I might have more sales reps watching this than I actually have store owners. Hey, Tara, happy Monday. Let's go. Tara Day says from Jacksonville, bedding down in Florida. David Grange, he's a showman. Wait for it. David, I know, dude, I know. I know. And listen, I actually know Ken's middle name. And David, you worked for Ken, and you should know his middle name, but
not
I bet
for,
you
don't. We worked with one another, not for.
Okay. You worked with each other, and you don't know his full name. It is Ken Magnificent Akers. That is his name. So anyway, getting back to this lesson, I was so upset that I'd lost this sale, $150 less. So what, 20 some percent less? I got undercut. Usually you lose a sale by 5 or 10% at the most, but this is like dramatic, right?
Yeah.
And so Angelo G. Lombardo, God rest his soul, one of the great Sealy reps of all time. He comes in to pay us our spiff checks. We actually got handwritten spiff checks back then, Ken. It shows this is a long time ago. And I said, Angelo, that's it. This is the last spiff check you write me. And the only reason I talked to him like that, he was a friend of the family's, and I wanted to let him know what happened. I wasn't trying to be like mean or hurtful. And he, as a pro, takes his glasses off. He goes, tell me about that, Pete. And I tell him the story in bloody detail. And he goes, well, Pete, how much would that spiff have been? I'm like, it would have been $30. He goes, no problem. I'm going to add $30 to your spiff check. Don't you ever even think about not selling another Sealy mattress. You keep doing what you're doing. If this situation ever happens again, which it probably won't, I will take care of you. I always have your back.
Interesting.
There's a lesson for all you sales reps.
Yeah.
Always have your retail sales associates back who work that retail floor for you, so that you don't have to work all the nights and the weekends and the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
great lesson, Pete.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got there, but that's the way this show rolls. Leroy. Who's Leroy?
Somebody's telling you my real middle name.
Oh, it's not Magnificent. It's
No,
Leroy.
it's after Grandpa Leroy. Thank you, George.
So, so back then, those were the lines that you had that gave you credibility and gave you authority in the marketplace. Your ads would pull better if you had Sealy, Serta, Simmons, and Spring Air was kind of it was kind of like a little bit of an outsider back then, but not by much. They seemed like they were going strong. And then today it's different. I still believe that you do have some of those brands that can um, help your advertising pull a little bit better. But right now, those direct to consumer brands, some of those brands are actually doing the job that the traditional brands used to do. And so it's all kind of changed. And there's still a need for a high quality, high margin bed out there, which that's what you specialize in. Also, with unique sales stories that a retail salesperson can sink their teeth into. So, what say you? I'm doing all the talking, brother.
Well, you're exactly right. That's how it's evolved. If anybody in this business doesn't think we're in a marketing-driven business, they should probably look at the definition of marketing-driven business, because there's a lot of very, very good mousetraps out there that don't get the credit for the quality of the bed they have. So you can build a great bed, but if the consumer doesn't know about it, it doesn't matter. So Pete, we take a different role here in the Midwest, and thankfully you're not operating over here. But in the Midwest and probably in other areas of the country with my brother and Spring Air and Restonic licensees, our brand is not the D2C brands or the old legacy brands. Our brand is our retailer's brand. So we help them promote their store as the place to buy a mattress. And that's really the approach that we take.
So, you're focused on selective distribution and real partnerships.
Well, that's a cliche, Pete. We got to sell a lot of people to make sure our factories have work. But we will go to a retailer and we'll say, how do you compete with the internet? How do you compete with your competitor in our 7 or 8 states that we operate in? And we give them the tools to win. I'll give you an example, Pete. Is now a good time?
Now's as good a time as ever, Ken.
Like, we have this new construction out there where you take a bed, you sleep on one side for a year, and then the next year you can flip it over and sleep on the other side. It's called the new two-sided traditional construction. Have you heard of it?
We sell a lot of two-sided beds, but I haven't heard it explained that way. That's really cool.
I'm being facetious, but it's hard to be a product innovator in today's market. It's really evolutionary versus revolutionary.
Well, it's sold, it's new, Ken.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Yeah, I got to give Simmons credit. They while we were both in the business, Pete, they came out and convinced the customer that a one-sided bed was better than a two-sided bed. I don't. Good for them.
So this is a funny story. I was working for United Sleep Products. United Sleep Products had been sold to Simmons. And a lot of people forget this, but the president of Serta was actually the president of Simmons for a very brief time.
Who was that, Pete?
Nils, was it Nils? Z?
Zine and Nye, maybe?
Yeah, Zine and
I'm sorry,
Nye.
I don't remember.
No. You're actually right. He was at our sales meeting. He said, "Listen, we have bought you. This is at High Point, Ken.
Okay.
We have bought you. Don't go anywhere. We are not messing with United Sleep Products. Paul and Tommy, everybody's staying in place. It's going to be business as usual. We cannot produce the quality that you produce in the promotional end of the business without completely disrupting our our operation lines. So we need you. We need your business, and this should be great for everybody. And then after that announcement, the deal fell through in Furniture Today 2 weeks later. The parent company was some food company, and they had lost money, and they withdrew the offer to buy United Sleep Products after the president of Simmons, gave our sales meeting in High Point Market.
Wow.
So never say never.
Isn't that the truth?
But the cool thing, and where I was going with this, Ken, is the deal was done. Our people and their people, the ops people I'm talking about, were sharing a lot of information. And that was, we were basically downloaded the playbook on the one-sided mattress. And so we didn't have the trial and error other people had. We had exactly everything. And when other one-sided mattresses came out, Ken, we would attack them by just pulling up on the bottom of the mattress and saying, listen, with us, you've got 2 to 3 inches of real foam here. With this, with Sealy specifically, you could feel the bones of the springs underneath. There was just a fiber pad in between.
Yeah.
So it's real interesting how that came to be. And I'll tell you, operations loved it. They loved the fact that those one-sided would go through the factory quicker and easier. They were easier to tailor because you basically had one tape edge up on top, right? Instead of having to flip it over.
Oh, there's no question. The tailoring's better. The operation, the assembling, the gluing, everything is much better in a one-sided bed. And I guess as an industry, we want our people to replace, or our customers to replace the mattress more often. So we're probably, plot twist, achieving that goal as well.
Yeah. Yep. So in your marketplace, are you continuing to place two-sided and having success with two-sided mattresses?
I'm going to tell you this. We go to a retail market and we will find a partner and we will give them the tools they need to win in that marketplace. It could be a $3.99 pillow top. It could be a mint we provide for them to put on the pillows, so when they deliver a bed, they get a Google review. It could be a two-sided bed. We'll give them what they need to win. And that's our objective.
Awesome. So given today's marketplace, what do you think a retailer needs to do to really maximize his or her door swings right now?
Wow. The first thing is you've got to take a good assessment of what your customer sees. In other words, you better start with the first step, which is Google mattresses in your area and see what the customer sees. Next, you better figure out what you can offer that will differentiate yourself from what the customer sees in the marketplace. The third thing is, or the sad thing is, these partners of ours, and we do very little D2C. Our wagon is on the retailer's tractor. We have to help them be viable and sustainable and grow. So that being said, we want to do everything we can to get their doors to swing. That being said, after we determine what the deficiency in the marketplace is or create a deficiency, we help them exploit it. So the question was, what can the retailer do? Yep. They got to look in the mirror and take a very good self-assessment of what their store stands for, what they can do to differentiate themselves, and then they got to tell the world about it. And that's the story.
Yeah, and I just want to unpack this just a little bit more, Ken, because you put your finger right on it, and it's incredibly huge for every retailer out there today to really, truly understand this difference. Your front step isn't your front step anymore. That's your front step.
Right, right.
It's your social media and it's your website. It's what Mr. and Mrs. Jones can pull up on their smartphone, whether
Mhm.
that be an iPhone or an Android. And what are you saying to your customer? And then what are your competitors saying to your customer? And
Mhm.
then how do I make my experience better than my competitors? And by the way, the most important thing, you know, you've seen the marketing star before, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I kind of developed my own marketing star that included a little bit more information, but our ability to have consistency in the shoes of the customer is the single most important thing. You can't have uh, a picture of a beautiful store that's not yours on your website and they come into your store and it's a dramatic letdown.
Yeah, yeah.
It needs to be consistent. So what they see on the website, and then when they drive into your parking lot, what do they see? When they
Right.
open the door, what do they see?
Mhm.
How are they greeted? Is everything connecting? Do our displays connect to our advertising? Does our sales process connect to our displays and our advertising? Or is there an inconsistency there?
Right,
Do we
right,
need to do more training? Do we need
right,
to do a different kind of training?
right.
And so I'm always looking at the consistency between the different points on the marketing star, whether we're talking about advertising, we're talking about display, sales education, service. The last person they see often is our drivers. What are we
Right,
doing with that experience?
right,
Are we making
right,
sure that experience is the right experience?
right,
Oh,
right.
by the way, we can't live today, not for long, without good Google reviews. To your point, you said it, the very first step, Google mattress and your reviews. Are they good? Are they authentic? Um, don't ever pay for reviews. Don't ever pay for likes. That stuff will get destroyed by an algorithm change, and then you'll be left holding the bag with nothing.
Sure.
So, fighting the good fight to get good, solid, authentic Google reviews, 5-star online reviews whenever possible is great. Getting testimonials, which we've always taught that. Even in the old days, we were taught that. And then getting referrals, which is almost a lost art. One of the things that I teach my retailers is anytime you get a customer and they give you a compliment, if you're on your toes and you understand, I need testimonials, I need online reviews, and I need referrals, that's your time to ask for all three of them when you're getting a compliment. And you need to really milk it. You really need to say, oh wow, sadly I don't hear that every day. I'm sure that we deliver a good experience to almost everybody, but we don't always hear the positives. So thank you very much. And then sharing with them how they can help your business.
Mhm,
And a
mhm.
lot of times our retailers kind of miss that opportunity. They just kind of base uh, bask in the glory of the compliment instead of remembering this is my opportunity to really get an online review or to get a referral or to get a testimonial or go for the holy grail and get all three of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
it really has changed over the years.
yeah.
It used to be you just took good care of the customer. There were no reviews and there were no phony reviews and there was no rigging of reviews.
Mhm.
Um, and none of that existed. We just gave good service and you would automatically get word of mouth advertising. Now it seems like you have to be very deliberate in how you go after um, those three things to make sure that you do get that word of mouth advertising.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, the Google reviews, Pete, are the dirt from which everything grows. You've got to pay attention to that. And We, unlike some of the big companies you mentioned earlier, pay attention to the retailers that might give us less than X hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So we like all of our customers equally. Whether I'm getting one set a week or thousands of sets of bedding orders a week, we like them all. And so the very first thing we do is we look at the Google reviews and see if they've got any, and if they have some, are they positive, and what can we do to help grow that? Because that's really step one, as you mentioned, the storefront on the Android or the Apple phones.
Yep, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
David Grange, exactly the whole experience, and hit on all channels to invite them and trust you. Trust Bong. Yep. Trust Bong. Trust Bond. Sorry. Yeah, and I rated it exactly that way. Thanks. I was ready for Cheech and Chong to come on the show in a second. It almost seems, David continues, it almost seems now that the new brand is our retailer. Yes. That's who the customer needs to believe. 100%.
Right.
And so we should be making our retail partners heroes, right? That should be our business.
My brand, your brand, SSBTSIBLT, doesn't matter. The brand in the marketplace that have made the investment in that marketplace with advertising and giving little Jimmy some money for his baseball team, whatever it is, the brand that he's made in his marketplace is most important. And Pete, we do best when we amplify and we magnify that brand. And we might have an event that isn't seen elsewhere, or an offer that isn't seen elsewhere that he can offer in that marketplace that really magnifies the brand and gets people excited to come into their store. And that's what we care about.
Yeah. That is incredibly huge. All of the very best retailers, not the biggest, but the best, are all strongly involved in their community.
Right.
And one of the things, I got into it with a retailer about 10 years ago, and I said, why don't you show the world what you're doing more? Well, I'm not doing it to promote mattress, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing it just to help the kids. I said, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate, play along with me. And I'm talking to him. And I said, so what if there's another retailer? They sell bikes, make up any retailer, have a restaurant, sell bikes. They're on the verge of doing something to help support the community, but they're not quite sure if they should. And they see you doing it, they're much more likely to say, oh, I should do it.
Yeah.
And that is why you should do it, not necessarily because it's going to benefit you or your store, but because it creates a stronger, better community. And let's just do the right thing. And usually, in one of the ironies of businesses, when you do the right thing comes back to you either immediately or down the road. Doesn't really matter, because the right thing's the right thing. And you should do it irregardless. So be super involved in your community and do it for the right reasons. Do it for the benefit of the community. And you'll be surprised how the community supports you, especially when those door swings are down, when business isn't as good or as vibrant as you'd like it to be. Your community will come in and will help. But,
well, Pete, you mentioned in business, do the right thing. Really, just to live a good life, you want to do the right thing. You know, I've done a lot of wrong things in my life, but I try to do the right thing mostly. Yep.
Do the right thing because it's the right thing.
Just do the right thing. Yeah.
And it's amazing how life changes when you don't need to calculate every little thing and have an ROI that's positive on every little event.
Yeah.
If it's something that you feel strongly about, and you seeing little Johnny on a bicycle that your store bought for him because there was a charity event going on and he wouldn't have gotten that bicycle any other way, there's your payback right there.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing is people watch, and
Yeah.
I'll never forget this as long as I live. I was at an event and people were in a hurry, and I was kind of thinking to myself, the manners on these people is not very good, and they're all like owners and executives, and I'm like, so I started playing doorman, Ken, and I found out that the president of a very influential company, I held the door for his wife, and it meant a lot to him. I found out later that evening.
Wow. You
And
just never know. Yeah.
you don't know. Just do the right thing.
Just do the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what else? What else you got for me, Ken? Or for our dealers, I should say.
Well, if we're talking specifically to dealers, and that's our audience, let's just say you and I are talking to a target customer we're not selling, or a current one. Look, our rules are pretty simple. We want to populate the store, and there's a lot of phalanges and paths to go down. The next thing we want to do after the customer comes into the store, does the store look committed to the category? And have we as a partner or their currently partner done that? So the customer comes in, they're committed to the category, they appear to be committed to the category, meaning there's no cigarette butts when you come into the store, and the signs are on, and the pillows are in the right spot. The customer's got to feel like they're committed to the category. The third thing is the person that greets them, whether it's the store owner or an RSA or the warehouse guy, they've got to look like they know what they're doing. They've got to appear like they know what they're doing. And Pete, they got to like what they're doing, because people can tell whether they like being there or not. The fourth thing is, if they ask questions, they got to be able to answer them or give them pretty good answers about them. And then after the consumer decides they want a bed, the store really has to, and this is your marketing star comment earlier, they've got to deliver the bed on time, trouble-free, complete, and they got to leave a mint on the pillow. And they got to ask them for a Google review, and then really all you do is repeat. It's pretty simple. It's not robust.
Well, I loved what you said. Are they committed to the category? Glenn Higginbotham, Mattress Barn in Texas. Yes, the first impression is the only impression. You got it.
It's hard to get over a bad impression.
You got it. What I wrote down when Ken said that was, I wrote sales competence. Like, you have to be competent at sales, and you really have to like people. Rob Mitzel, a full uninterrupted hour with Ken Akers. Everyone better listen up to two of the busiest and smartest guys in the business. Kudos to Pete for corralling him for the show. You know what? I did have to corral him, Rob. I actually did. This dude wasn't like giving me an easy way. I had to corral him. It's like you were there, Rob. That's scary. Jordan Beck says, two legends. You're too kind, Jordan. You come from a family of legends, my friend. So thank you. Very kind comment. I want to unpack what you said, because you just said so much. So one of the smartest guys I ever knew in the business, as a little baby rep, I'd just come off of 9 years of retail, which was so important, foundation of my career. And he used to always talk to us in terms of when we have prospects, potential dealers.
Targets. Got you. All right.
You call them targets. I call them prospects. We're talking about the same thing. Here's the question. What is their real, and emphasis on real, potential volume? Like, if we improve this about their merchandising, we help them with their advertising, We help them with the sales training. We help them with the displays and some ideas about service to help them execute. What is their real potential? And a lot of real potential has to do with the owner's attitude. So if you as a store owner do not want to learn and you think you know everything and there's nothing for you to ever learn, then you pretty much have what you have and you're never going to improve. But if you're a student like all of the best retailers, and whether it's whether it's Jeff Giannakovo at Gardner's Mattress and More, or whether you've got Rob Mitchell's a great example. There's these two guys are students. Scott Vaughn and his son now Jordan Vaughn at Happy Z's in Kentucky. Students of the game always have their thinking hat on, always want to improve. And so what I'm looking for is, do they have Mavenitis or do they want to improve? Are they students of this industry and do they want to learn and do they want to get better? And that really impacts how committed they are to the business. Sure. And I could go on for hours and hours and hours with retailers that just absolutely were going at it the best way they could, but they were never challenged or exposed to new ideas. But when they were, they adapted them. They changed. They started to go, okay, that makes sense. Maybe my greeting needs to change. Maybe my merchandising needs to change. Maybe my display needs to change. Maybe I have to update my website. Maybe I have to get more active on social media, even though I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. You know, it used to be more simple. You know, we didn't have internet advertising when I started in the business. Do you know what I used to have? I got these Veloxes. Do you remember Veloxes? The black and white Veloxes that we would hand to the newspapers to run the ads?
Are you talking about ad slicks, Pete?
Ad slicks.
Yeah. 3 columns by 5 inches. Let's put it in the page 3 in the upper right-hand corner.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And we used to, and so I'll never forget this as long as I live. I don't know why, Ken, but this is a crazy thing. I was just, I don't know. I guess I didn't know what I didn't know. I walked into this big newspaper and I said, I'm Pete Primeau with Serta Mattress Company. And I control a $250,000 co-op ad budget. And I'd like to talk to somebody in graphic design. He got me a cup of coffee, even though I didn't drink coffee. And before you know it, somebody was ushered out to me and they said, Mr. Primeau, what do you need? And I said, I have 3 of my retailers in the area, and I have 2 that are potential retailers, and I need these ad slicks customized with the following price points, the following free services, and they actually developed for me finished ad slicks.
Wow.
And I'll never forget this as long as I live. Wow. And I'm at an open house, and one of my prospects says, you know, this is all well and good. Yes, you know, you have a nice display, and I do like your selling system. And by the way, I like everything that I said, but what are you going to do for me? Okay.
Yeah.
And Barbara McKay, she looked like the cat ate the canary because she knew that I had customized these ad slicks for this dealer. And I just kind of looked at her and smiled. And she looked at him and she said, I think you're really going to like what Pete worked up for you. And Ken, I'm not making this up. He walked out of there clutching these ad slicks. Like, you know, like someone was going to try to take them away, right? They had his name of his store. Like no one wanted them except him.
Right.
And you would have thought that I would have given him $1 million because he had never experienced that kind of attention from any rep selling him anything. He was a full line furniture store. He had 3 stores. He was a force to be reckoned with. He consistently advertised, Ken, which is something that we're trying to kind of look for, right?
Yeah.
And he was just looking for new advertising ideas.
Right. Right.
And if you brought that to him, that was his thing. So Adam Cole, hi from Jellystone. I 100% agree. Always be open to learning every single day. In the words of Scott Vaughn, it takes this kind of effort to be exceptional. Adam, I was at masterclass and I was thinking, this is great, but it's just not the same without you, brother. So Adam is absolutely a student of our business, just loves to learn. David Grange, exactly. Even us as tenured mattress OGs will always be learning. There is always something to learn from anyone in our business and consumers. 100% right. Share best practices, not to mention network with great retailers. Boy, that's where I've been so blessed that get it and have been in business for 40 to 100 years or longer, or are disruptors. Yes, the disruptors always looking to improve their customer experience and trust. Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are disruptors in this business, and I'll tell you, I just love to sit at their feet and learn. So
Yeah.
I'm doing all the talking, Ken. Jump in there, man.
Well, Pete, in our field, you mentioned a couple things. One is that you built that ad slick with the dealer's logo on it. Really what we have to do as wholesale suppliers to rank and file retailers is be prepared. Do your homework. And Pete, that's exactly what you did. You went and got the guy's logo, put it on it, and the price points, and we all can learn from that. There's no need to go into a store if you don't have a plan. If you want to buy donuts, go buy donuts and take it to your family, but don't take it to a retailer. Take a plan to grow, or a plan to execute, or something they can implement. And if you don't have that, just stay in the car and go somewhere else. But plan your work and work your plan, as they say. Be there for a reason and be of value. These people that are working retail stores and wholesale, they're busy. They don't have time for conversations. That's why they have social media.
I love that. As a matter of fact, one of my very first mentors told me, Pete, if you don't have a plan to go into a store, don't go to the store. You got to have a plan. You need to have a plan when you make up your schedule. Like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And sometimes, your plans get interrupted with a plan of their own that they hit you with, right? Like, you get something out of left field. And, that's why the good Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we could sit and listen and help our retailers. So I love that. That is just, it reminds me of car rides when I was a CERTA rep. I'll never forget this, Ken. I'm riding with Jeff Allen. And I am just like, man, Jeff, I wasted the last 9 years of my life. Can't believe I spent all this time in retail. Like, I love what I do, like going around and helping these retailers grow and meeting new retailers. That's a brand new territory for me, Ken. And so, like, it was a little corner of Indiana, a little corner of Illinois, and a little corner of Michigan.
Yeah.
It was the proverbial, what kickers territory that the rookie got.
Yeah.
See what he can do with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I opened 20 new dealers in 6 months, they were a little surprised. But the thing that Jeff said to me, and this is really important. It's important for store owners too. Don't ever dismiss what you did in the past as not being relevant, even including your worst failures. it made you who you are today, and your ability to empathize, your ability to have knowledge. Uh, Jeff very simply said this. He said, Pete, I watch you with your retailers. They love you. The reason they love you is you get them. You were them. You were them for 9 years. You know, on an emotional level, Pete, what it's like to be told 10 times in a row, I'm just looking, and I'll think about it, and
Yeah.
I'll come back. You
Yeah.
know what that feels like. There's other reps that just come out of college and they don't understand what that feels like, but you live that life. And because you live that life, he goes, never again, promise me you will never again discount your retail experience. And I want you to remember that everything that you learned as in your retail career is going to help you to help other retailers in your wholesale career. And I said, okay, Jeff. So I thought I was just making small conversation with Jeff, and I got a life lesson out of that. Glenn Higginbotham from Texas Mattress. In the process of our learning curve, we are starting to transition from our great local manufacturer supplies to mix and national brands. Biggest fear is over leveraging. What forms of checks and balance could I implement to alleviate my stress? LOL. Glenn, I don't understand that question.
Let me take a stab at it, Pete.
I'm going to let Ken take a stab at it, and if there's anything you can add, to make that a little more clear, go ahead. Have at it, Ken.
Well, we know that we know some of the legacy brands are leveraging their floors, their floor assortments, their numbers of SKUs, and they don't like to have the local manufacturers, a la Englander, Restonic, Spring Air, the homegrown guys on the floor, because we're disruptors on the floor. And so I think what he's looking for is a balance between the quasi brands and the house brands, so to speak. I would say this to Mr. H, find your piece, and the only barometer is the income statement at the end of the month. If you're not getting door dings, address that. If you're not getting closing rate, if you're not getting close or conversions, address that. If you're not getting the right average unit selling price, address that. But you really just find those 5 metrics and let the best person win, best supplier, best company win. That makes sense, Pete?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Glenn, if you got anything else, and Glenn, you've got my phone number, 419-560-3169. If you don't want to go into the details, but you want to on a private call, I'm always available to you, brother. So thank you. That's a great question. And I got to tell you something, Glenn, that is a question that everybody's wrestling around today. Tepper Sealy just spent the last year going around threatening retailers and demanding more SKUs. And now you've got the thing with Matt Firm going on, and nobody knows how that's going to play out. And the most important thing is your store and how it impacts you. And I would say this, don't borrow other people's troubles. Let your income statement at the end of the month dictate your next moves. As our friend Ken just said, Ken, this felt like 10 minutes, and look, we got 5 minutes left. The last 10 minutes of every episode I give to our guests, but you, my friend, only get 5. What is there a question that I should have asked you that I didn't, or is there something you would like to say to everyone who's listening?
Well, that's a broad question, Pete.
It is. You do whatever you want with it.
I would say it depends on the audience, but I would say these 3 things. One, there's 3 of us involved with this: the manufacturer, the retailer, and the consumer. And as long as we all look after one another's best interests, the manufacturer looks after the retailer, and the manufacturer looks after the consumer, and you do what's right, life seems to be pretty good. If you look at the consumer and not the retailer, if you look at the retailer, not the consumer, there's something wrong. So the retailer's got to look at their consumer and their factory that they're doing business with. We are in our area, Pete, I am so incredibly fortunate to have a group of customers, consumers, retailers that have trusted us. And it's not because I haven't made mistakes, Pete. We make mistakes, but not one factory I know of, other than yours probably, will work harder to fix the mistake than we do. We make mistakes. And retailers make mistakes. They might order the wrong piece. Consumers make mistakes. They might have got a bed home and they hated it and we didn't have a sleep trial. We've all got to look out for one another, because when one of us doesn't pay attention to the other one, it's chaotic. You got to pay your wholesaler, you got to pay the customer, you got to take care of them. We all got to love on one another, because you can see when there's somebody not engaged with that process. So that would be one thing that I would say.
That's awesome. Glenn says you hit it right on the button.
Oh, thanks, Glenn.
So Glenn knew what you were talking about. I was the one who was not understanding. Scott Vaughn says, good guy, good stuff, guys. Thank you, Scott, for being here, brother. I know you're super busy. Appreciate you being here, dropping in and saying hi, man. So somebody that's been watching this, Ken, and they go, you know what? I've got a story, and I'd like to talk to you, Ken, and I've got a store in your area. I'd like to, sit down and chat with you. How do they get a hold of you?
There's, I'm going to show my age now, Pete. You were talking about the Sealy Wars. The best way to get a hold of me is at KAKERS 7449 at AOL.com.
AOL?
Yeah.
AOL.
K Akers 7449 at AOL.com. If you want to talk more about an opportunity or a challenge, or just something you want to help get over or not get over, Pete, and I hate to sound like a pitch man, Ron Popeil pitching stuff here, but if you had a challenge in your marketplace, if you got a challenge not getting a short queen, a round bed, a two-sided bed, a bunkie board, whatever it is, our factory, we think we can provide it, and we'll provide it in a profitable manner, and we'll ship you on time, item complete. But that's really the story.
That's awesome. I love the quick work my producer did, huh?
Yeah, he did a nice job.
He's amazing.
All right, Chris. Yeah, I got mail. By the way, I got this thing on my wall too that's got a cord to it that connects to a phone. It's a landline. You remember we used to make long distance calls, Pete, and we had to remember that 73-digit number to call long distance?
I remember when I had to call the factory twice every day, once at the beginning and once at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I knew where every payphone was in my territory. Now there are no payphones.
Right.
David, Ken has always made himself available if needed. That is awesome. That is the true test, right?
Thanks,
Does he
David.
pick up the phone on nights and weekends, and is he passionate about the business, he or she? Chris Haney had a comment. Let's read Chris's comment. Chris Haney says, Ken's going to be here and you've got mail like crazy now. I remember that because I had AOL a long time.
Yeah.
And I can still hear it in my sleep sometimes, brother. So
Yeah.
Ken, thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll bounce into each other at market sometime. And by the way, anybody that has done my show before, you know exactly how the show is done. There is no rehearsal. There is no nothing. It is just live, and we go and we talk. And Ken, this was an absolute treat to sit and talk with you. And I am sure our retailers got a lot out of it.
Pete, I appreciate you having me. And I want to say this in closing. There's one currency that all of us spend without knowing the balance. And Pete, that is time. So I'm going to encourage you all, including myself, to use it more wisely.
Amen, Ken. Use time wisely. And with that, everybody go out there and sell 1 million. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Pete.